This Gujarat is completely foreign soil for the Aam Aadmi Party. But for them to dream about forming a government, decimating the Congress, replacing the Congress, I think this is cloud kaku land. When this man is walking for 6 months or 9 months by the time he finishes, or 8 months, then you say that what is the purpose of the yatra? He has no agenda of a temple. He has no agenda of a particular religious issue. There is no law and order in his yatra. Nobody can deny that I fought for independence. You also fought for independence from different perspectives. You may have a non-violent approach to independence. I may have a different approach to independence. That was the difference between Gandhi and Savarkar. Nobody is suggesting that he was fighting not for independence. But equally, the fact of the matter is that he did apologize.
Hello and welcome to HT's weekly talk show, The Interview. The Congress Party has decided to challenge the court verdict releasing the convicts in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. Leading the charge is none other than senior advocate and Member of Parliament Abhishek Manu Singhvi. And this despite the fact that the Gandhi family has not objected to the release. On this, says Singhvi, the party disagrees with the Gandhis. We speak to him to find out the real story. Abhishek Manu Singhvi in this edition of HT's weekly talk show, The Interview. Welcome to the show, Mr. Abhishek Singhvi, and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you.
Let me begin with the Congress's decision to file a review petition against the release of the convicts in the Rajiv Gandhi assassination case. What
Yeah.
are the reasons?
There is a very strong and a very comprehensive set of reasons. First and foremost, Kumkum, this is a matter impinging directly, inextricably intertwined with the sovereignty, integrity, the identity of the nation. The assassination of any prime minister, former or current, irrespective of political color, impinges on the identity, sovereignty, integrity of the nation. It's not just a murder, all murders are bad, but this is a very heinous, premeditated crime of the chief executive of the nation.
The party has termed the court's order as unacceptable and problematic and has also reacted to the court taking into account the convicts' conduct.
Tell me, Kumkum, if you apply this test, which you have rightly formulated, how will you decide the hundreds of similar petitions, indeed thousands across the country, lifers as they call them, serving sentence, saying, I've been there for 20 years, I've been there for long, I've done this. How do you regulate it? In fact, it's very interesting that the Supreme Court itself realizes that there is no specific provision to regulate it. So they use what we call lawyers call Article 141, which is a special unique power unique to the Supreme Court, which means they can do things even contrary to law or divorce the law, outside of the law. And the very use of that article shows that the Supreme Court is accepting the fact that there is no power under which they should do this. Because obviously, if you do this and it becomes a precedent, then how will you deal with hundreds of others who are asking for the same relief?
The centre moving the court seeking a review of the order has been criticized by the Congress. And let me quote: what is the point in locking the door after the horse has bolted? And they've also said it's a case of belated wisdom dawning.
If you read the Supreme Court order, uh, you will find that there are copious passages saying that many opportunities were given to the central government. The central government dithered. The central government did not come forward. The central government did not file replies in time. That's all recorded. Possibly, had the central government been vigilant, had it been categorical, had it been firm from the beginning, this state of affairs would not have come because the central government was a direct party. We, as the Congress, when we file a review, are in that sense slightly more removed. But we want to make a statement of intent. We want to declare the fact that the Congress, all through, be it in the earlier years or now, there's no change in the stance. Even when Sonia Gandhi said this earlier in a different context, we opposed it and we continue to oppose it.
While on Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, you know, the party's stand seems different from the family, wherein they seem to have forgiven the convicts while you are taking this head on.
Yes, there is a slight nuance there which is not being appreciated. The There is no doubt that Mrs. Sonia Gandhi asked for leniency to the extent that the death sentence on a lady be commuted to life. That's all she did. That's all she asked for. Now the question is that when she asked for that, you are now extrapolating it to mean that you release people who are in for life. There is no question of being in for life, being released en masse. She never asked for that. And secondly, the Congress party stand has been the same from the beginning. And for the same reason we articulated it then, we are articulating it now. People ask me, oh, but the DMK is asking for it, it's your ally. This is not about alliances. This is not about politics. It's about a principled stand we've taken. A, there is no basis for selecting these people for release. B, you are ignoring the prime ministerial status of the deceased. C, that you are using special powers. D, you have no basis of dealing with the rest of the people in a similar fold. So you have to be very careful. And I wish the central government had been more vigilant and prompt.
Yet the party stand is different from the family, wherein they have forgiven the convicts.
There is a misconception here, Kumkum. Number one, this word forgiven is misleading. Sonia ji had asked many years ago that this is a lady with a child. Please commute her death sentence to life. Commutation is different from release. Number two, the Congress party stand then also was stated very clearly that we don't agree that any leniency can be shown to the assassin of a former prime minister. That stand remains the same today. It doesn't make a difference. It's not a political question, it's a principled question. And in a sense, I would say that the Supreme Court has recognized this because it uses extraordinary special power of the Supreme Court, because it knows that otherwise it would be a precedent to release so many more people. How will you distinguish between you and me?
You know, while on the Gandhis, if I'm not mistaken, I think you are on record to state that this time around the Congress party is differing from what Mrs. Gandhi had said or wanted.
I officially said that with greatest respect, we respect her sentiments, we respect what she said, of course, with the clarifications, she never asked for release. But with that clarification, I said we differ then and we differ now. And I put that on record. And I think it's a very fair and upfront thing to do. And had we been parties in the sense the central government was a party, we would have said the same thing. Now, you may also say, look, your view differs somewhat from Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, your view differs somewhat from DMK, but in some sense, your view matches that of the central government.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say that.
And it is recorded in the order that you should have come earlier, you should have responded earlier.
You know, politically, there is more than meets the eye, and the decision to seek a review could not have happened without the approval or the sanction of the Gandhis.
See, you are entitled to have all the conspiracy theories in which, after all, an ecosystem of journalism must thrive. But let me assure you, there is no conspiracy theory. There is nothing, because the simple lie to that fact is given by the fact that the Congress stand was the same when Mrs. Sonia Gandhi asked for even commutation. That was decades ago. Our stand is not changed. What has changed is the delay and the lackadaisical attitude of the central government.
You know, people are asking, and I will again attempt to ask, since when has the Congress started acting on its own, and that too different from what the Gandhis want?
This is sensational enough for you, isn't it? That we don't agree with the Gandhis. This should be enough. I am saying so openly. And I have not yet faced disciplinary action in the sense that the Congress party is the Congress party. We are saying it with deepest respect. We understand the sentiments. We understand what they went through. But it's a matter of principle. We don't agree that a prime minister of this country happened to be with the Congress. That action, which is dastardly, can be condoned.
So you're not going to give me the inside story.
There is no inside story.
Coming to the latest development, what is your reaction to the central government objecting to the Supreme Court asking for files regarding the recent appointment of the election commissioner?
Now, that is, of course, very recent, and I think it has larger issues. As you know, most of our constitutional positions, in fact, even statutory positions, that is, not in the Constitution, but in a statute, Act of Parliament, many of them, like CBI, CVC, have a special selection process where an independent set of elements sit. Leader of the opposition, somewhere the Chief Justice, somewhere a judge of the Supreme Court. That is true of CBI appointments, CVC appointments, etc., etc. Now, strangely, for a position in the election commission which is superior, because it's a constitutional position, it is not a statutory position, the appointment is merely by an executive order. So the government, can merely pass an executive order appointing you. There is no selection procedure which involves an external element of independence. Now, as you know, free and fair elections have been held to be part of basic structure of the Indian constitution. Basic structure, which means it can't be taken away even by a constitutional amendment. Now, how is it that you are allowing this kind of executive appointment and whimsicality without any element of outside? This is the question being considered by the 5-judge constitution bench actively for the last 3-4 days. Now, in between that, we find that the most recent appointment is of Mr. Govil as election commissioner. So all that the court asked was, look, we have a recent appointment, let us see the papers. That's all they've asked. They've given no verdict. Why should the central government object? As I've said, do they have something to hide? कोई चोर की दाढ़ी में तिनका है, दाल में कुछ काला है. You're doing nothing. You're only saying, look, you had a recent appointment on the very subject we are discussing today in the Supreme Court. Therefore, please show us the appointment papers. That's all. They should never have objected. In fact, it leads you to think that they have much to hide or suppress.
And you believe that?
I don't have to believe that. Your conduct shows that. Last, you said no, or you objected. Ultimately, of course, the court order will prevail.
Coming to another controversy, what is your view on Mr. Rahul Gandhi's remarks on V.D.Savarkar? Do you think they were out of line and were best avoided?
I think clearly that they were blown out of proportion. He was answering a narrow question which is factually true. He was not making a value judgment about the overall persona of V. Savarkar and the esteem in which he is held in Maharashtra. He was stating a fact. However, to add insult to the fact that he spoke, to add innuendo, to add insinuation, I don't think Rahul Gandhi meant any of that. There is no doubt that he may have done some things in the national interest. There is equally no doubt that he came to a whisker of being convicted in a Rajiv Gandhi assassination case where he was ultimately acquitted. After all, in the Mahatma Gandhi assassination case where he was ultimately acquitted. So therefore, there are different viewpoints. I think Rahul Gandhi was not trying to show any disrespect. He was stating a fact, and it was because it suits political parties to do it, blown out of proportion.
You know, in fact, his remarks have pushed the MBA alliance with the Congress on the brink. And we have Mr. Sanjay Raut say that Rahul Gandhi's remarks were unwarranted and could impact the alliance.
I think, of course, everybody is entitled to their own views, their own way of putting it. Subsequent to that, Rahul Gandhi has had a detailed conversation with the head of that party. I don't think there is any remotest friction. So I think this suits the narrative of the political opponents in Maharashtra. None of this is happening. Their relations are very cordial, and we have stood through thick and thin, for both thick and thin for them and thick and thin for us.
And yet Sanjay Raut is saying that it could affect the alliance.
Sanjay Raut's reaction was on the very day of the statement. Clarifications and conversations have happened after that. I think it's now a thing of the past, and it is not in any manner, as you call in commercial parlance, a deal breaker of any kind or a coalition breaker.
So the coalition is going strong.
You know, Maharashtra coalition was born in a crucible of adversity, of pain. It's very easy now for us to forget, but remember the remarkable political acrobatics of the BJP in trying to form a 2-day government with Mr. Fadnavis in the lead of that. It is in that time, which is much more testing and painful, that Uddhav Thackeray and his team, Rahul Gandhi and his Congress team at that time, all stood firm. Thereafter, there were cases. There were all kinds of, the kind of harassment the government of Maharashtra had to face from the center is well known and well documented. I think if they've done this journey amidst so much of adversity for so many years, of course, capped by this splintering, the Surat visits, the Guwahati visits, the resorts, this degree of journey, if you've stood through, I think you are underestimating the strength of the alliance completely. It is now being honed by fire, I would say.
Coming back to Savarkar, Some years ago, you yourself had praised him and called him an accomplished man. Do you still hold that view?
You must see my words carefully. I said there are always blacks, whites, and grays. No person is a single unilinear, unifocal person. Nobody can deny that I fought for independence. You also fought for independence from different perspectives. You may have a non-violent approach to independence. I may have a different approach to independence. That was the difference between Gandhi and Savarkar. Nobody suggesting that he was fighting not for independence. But equally, the fact of the matter is that he did apologize. Above all, I would not go so much into the apology or the fact that he had a different means to the approach that Gandhiji did. For me, what is important is that if you come so close as a whisker, and remember, those who have read the book, including the recent book of Vikram, I have read it, Sampath, shows how within a whisker you came to being convicted. All the assassins of Gandhi have been recorded as going up the stairs to the house and coming down. Now, there was a big cloud. He was acquitted because you need beyond reasonable doubt to prove something. But to be part of a concept which was so close to the assassination of the most revered figure of the Indian polity or the Indian system for decades, Mahatma Gandhi, does put a cloud. So he's a mixed bag. And you have to be truthful enough to know there's a mixed bag. You can't be unifocal and unilinear and saying there's nothing wrong and nothing good or bad. So, people tend to take sentences out of context and say, you said black, you said white, and there's no gray. I don't believe in that.
So, what is the sum total of what you're saying?
This is a journalistic spin. You cannot sometimes do a sum total of a person. The sum total is what I just said.
Okay. You have also, while on praise or while praising, you have also at one point praised Prime Minister Modi's Swachhata mission. And you said that should be appreciated. Aren't you often saying what the Gandhis would not like to hear?
I don't think the Gandhis act in the manner in which journalists would like to interpret. I don't think the Gandhis give diktats that if you agree with some policy of the government, just because you are in the Congress party, you must vociferously oppose, or if you keep silent also, then you are not doing the Congress job. I don't think that's the truth at all.
What is the truth? And what is the real story?
Real story is nothing. I made a view. I expressed my view. After all, nobody is an unmitigated disaster. I believe, I've always said in my press conferences that itne prakhar और मुखर वक्ता फिर भी वो चुप्पी साध के बैठते हैं ऐसी बड़े बड़े घिनौनी चीजें देश में हो रही हैं उसमें. So does that mean that why are you saying that माननीय प्रधानमंत्री इतने प्रखर और सशक्त वक्ता हैं? Of course he is, but then he maintains silence on gruesome things. All his great eloquence is merged into silence. Now, it is a very, very, parliamentary democracy works on convergence. And I would hold the biggest liability of the Modi government is to reduce that convergence to a hiatus.
While on the Bharat Jodo Yatra, what is your take and what do you see it doing for the Congress party?
The Bharat Jodo Yatra has been meeting, according to me, outstanding success. I'll be joining it shortly in my home state, Rajasthan. But I don't need to join it to tell you this. You have to see the spontaneous, non-orchestrated outpouring of support. 1. 2, it does not mean that it is the necessary and the sufficient condition. This is one of the various planks, but it is an outstanding plank. It is largely not getting into petty politics. You may have an individual statement by Kumkum Chadda or Abhishek Singhvi, but you don't have, this is not a petty political yatra. It is on a much larger issue. It is trying to join people. The biggest charge against this government is divisiveness. It is highlighting that. Number 3, it is a massive and a marathon effort. I mean, we tend to say Bharat Jodo, Bharat Jodo. You don't see the logistics behind it, the amount of walking involved. And it takes time. Number 4, I believe that this has to be followed up with many more similar initiatives. Nobody is saying that you've done Bharat Jodo and you sit back. You can have so many other spin-offs, so many other initiatives. You have to therefore connect as you are with this yatra, with the people. There is a huge amount of spontaneous support. People are walking, people are spending time, people are understanding that there is a person who means well and is not into merely making divisive comments or making haranguing with rhetoric.
I'm told, and I will want you to clarify, that some of the film stars who've joined the Yatra have been paid to come on board.
Anybody can say anything. And those who see two or three film stars who have come in a yatra which has now spent more than 4 months with lakhs of people, but you see, I don't mean you, I mean the people who make this charge, see those two film stars. I can only think that they're Nelsonian blind. I can only see that it's like a Shuturmurg, like a person who puts his head inside the sand and wants to see what he wants to see or doesn't want to see anything. All that your takeaway from this yatra has been the 6 or the 5 film stars, and that too paid ones. What will he do with paid 5 film stars when there are millions walking with him?
Okay. But, the film stars actually perhaps were brought in, even if they were invited, when the Yatra entered a tricky phase. The millions and hundreds and supporters you're talking about, of course, they were there. But when Congress was treading safe ground, which is the South. Now, as it comes into the North, which is more BJP, probably they need these props.
Not at all. Do you think we have to stand the prop of 4 film stars to run a Maharashtra yatra? Let me assume I get film stars by payment. How long will they last? This actually shows and manifests and proves beyond doubt the complete fear, bokhlahat and ghabrahat in the minds of the adversary, which is spreading these canards.
Tell me, politically, what is this Yatra going to achieve or has achieved for the Congress party? And which way, my
It is,
second question, is the Congress headed?
it has already achieved a lot, which is why you see this bokhlahat, this petty. If you didn't have this, you wouldn't be having these allegations. What does a connect with the people achieve for a political party? This is the connect with the people. Now you can call it why did Advaniji take a Rath Yatra? He was not even walking. When this man is walking for 6 months or 9 months by the time he finishes, or 8 months, then you say that what is the purpose of the yatra? He has no agenda of a temple. He has no agenda of a particular religious issue. There is no law and order in his yatra. But because you are in power, therefore you will spread canards. You have money, you have resources.
When Advaniji took out that Yatra, the electoral benefit was from a single digit, the party jumped to double. Do you think the Congress from a double digit is likely to jump to a 3-figure after this Yatra electorally?
The first point to remember is that the Congress never went to 2. This is a party which went to 2. And therefore the increase sounds astronomical. Secondly, this is one out of the many political tools which are legitimately used. This is a very important political tool. A rally is another one. Making a development program or booth sampark is the third one. It is not that you are, when you see a Bharat Jodo Yatra, you say that this is the exclusion of everything else. This is synergical effect. It is over time. It is not knee-jerk. It has to be coordinated. It has to be consistent. One swallow doesn't make a summer. This will be followed. But it is such a massive exercise that it will take some months to finish before we talk of follow-up. And let me tell you that the inevitable impact of this is that people connect to 3 things. One is they connect to what is wrong with the present dispensation. Then second, they connect to what is right with those who want to reform. So these are matters which take time, but yes, certainly there will be a dramatic change in perception and thinking when you realize that this is done with a Niswartha Bhavana.
Congress never reached 2. I agree. That's why my question was that do you think from its current figure of double digit, the Yatra will help it reach 3 digits?
Yatra is one of the vital tools which will help it dramatically increase its political footprint. Dramatically. Now, I can't put a number to it, but since we were never at 2, we've had bad times, but you can rest assured a dramatic improvement at the minimum takes it into 3 figures.
And yet the Congress claims that this is not for politics.
No, they doesn't say that at all. It says it is not for narrow political campaign for one state. Congress is a political organization. Rahul Gandhi is a political activist. What it is saying is that don't limit it to a Gujarat election. Don't limit it to a Himachal election. He's saying that. He's not saying that this is not a political connect. Of course, it's a political connect. It should be, and it is. And it is a massive political connect, which is why these people are coming up with these silly allegations and mocking and poking fun. You have Bazi on one side, you have rhetoric, you have the same allegations, you have a kind of self-inflicted wound for which you want pity and compassion from the public to get votes. Purely political machine, which is only looking for votes crassly. And you have here a larger perspective. That's the contrast.
You spoke of Gujarat. Politically, do you see the Aam Aadmi Party pushing out the Congress electorally? It did it in Punjab. Do you think the Congress does rival in AAP and would find itself pushed further back and AAP taking number 2 position and standing up against the BJP as the main opposition party?
People are forgetting that why did you not find AAP active in Himachal? Ask that question. Himachal is a logical neighborhood, hinterland. Because, things are not so easily transplantable. They had resonance in Punjab for a different set of reasons. There was a schism at that time, as you know, between tall leaders in the Congress also. The Akalis were down in the dumps. This Gujarat is completely foreign soil for the Aam Aadmi Party. It is as much as going and fighting election in England. And the only plank is that ignore both BJP and Congress and come to us. So there is absolutely no question. The fight is between the incumbent and the Congress. Now, where it settles, there is no doubt that a third party does do damage. According to us, it does much more damage to the BJP because it takes away large chunks of the urban vote. But that's a matter to be decided in the elections. But for them to dream about forming a government, decimating the Congress, replacing the Congress, I think this is cloud cuckoo land.
Mr. Abhishek Singhvi, thank you very much. Thank you for your time and thank you for taking all the questions as always.
Thank you. Thank you so much.